Hey everyone, it's Michael. I hope you're doing well today, and I have a James Bond review here for you. I know a couple of days ago I made like one of my top 4 videos ever in viewership. Probably not a popular opinion, but just kind of rambling about why I hate James Bond films most of the time. Out of like the 10 I saw, I think this is number 10 or number 11, something like that. But I've never seen this particular film. I tried to rewatch from the beginning the Sean Connery era and James Bond era in general, Dr. No, and I got like 30 or 40 minutes and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I saw it one time years ago. I can't do it. But I saw this one, I'm pretty sure, recommended by a couple of you in the comments section of that Why I Hate James Bond video, and I wanted to try it out. And I know this is like one of the classics that like Skyfall is calling back to, and I wanted to give it a shot, and that's Goldfinger. Goldfinger came out in 1964. It's the third Sean Connery film. Yes, I don't know if I saw the second Sean Connery film, From Russia with Love. I think I did. I could be wrong. I have like a little 3-movie box set here. But within 3 years, you have the third James Bond film right here. And I know Goldfinger, like I said, is kind of considered a classic, not only amongst Bond fans, but kind of pop culture. And I gotta be honest, I really enjoyed this. This was a really solid flick. It may be in my top like 3 or 4 movies in the franchise that I have seen. But I'm just kind of jumping around. I'm kind of going to the ones you guys, kind of recommended, and then ones that I know are notorious for being really good, or ones that are notable for potentially being awful, but I've heard some people like them, like Moonraker, for example. I think the next Bond flick is Thunderball. I don't own it, so I'm probably going to have to rent that at some point. And I'm not going to rush to it either. But I kind of have been in this Bond mood. Like, I kind of want to rewatch Spectre and Skyfall and even Casino Royale. I don't know if I even own that movie anymore. I think I got rid of it. But anyway, I've been in this kind of Bond mode, and I wanted to try more of the films that I hadn't seen that you guys recommended, especially because I like those first 2 Brosnan films so much. But anyway, Goldfinger was really, really badass. Everything that I don't like about Dr. No and what I think I remember about From Russia with Love but don't entirely remember, I don't know if number 2 or this film are the one that they got the formula down for what James Bond, in my opinion, in the films should be. And that kind of, gadgety type of character that apparently, from what I understand from Geekvolution's channel and when Eric was on there, blows himself up dude, brown coat Eric, if you remember him. I've been watching their videos recently. About James Bond from years ago. And I think they mentioned that this is the movie where he begins to have gadgets. I didn't know that, obviously. There's not like a ton, but it is kind of cool. This is one of the quintessential James Bond films that made it a franchise, that made it popular. And to be honest with you, if more of the films were like this, I think I would like it more, just like I do with GoldenEye, which might be my favorite outside of Skyfall. I don't know. But this is up there. This is a really cool one. But I'll go ahead and finally get to the plot here. Essentially, James Bond gets into like a meeting with the British government, I guess, MI6, that tell him they want him to basically kind of investigate a guy named Goldfinger who somehow has built up a bunch of gold, and like he may have a plan to do something with polluting the gold in America at some point. And so Bond has to go investigate him. And sometimes Bond's being held captive, sorta, and sometimes he's not. Sometimes he's free to just go talk to Goldfinger directly. They have a golf game at one point. I know this all sounds like a weird hostage situation, but it's really not like that. And to be honest with you, if I remember, because it's been a few days, if I remember correctly, before we even get to the Goldfinger plot, there's like a beginning of this movie, like a opening type of thing, where Bond basically is like in a village and he blows something up. I don't remember what it was. I'm not going to spoil it too much. But then he goes to like a bar in this place. It looks like it'd be like, if it was a black and white film, it looks like kind of the place where Harry Houdini dies in the old Houdini black and white movie from back in the day. Kind of like a Casablanca bar type of thing. Anyway, he goes in there and he's like, at one point he goes into like a back bedroom hotel room thing and he's going to sleep with the dancer from that room. And he gets in a fight with a guy who was going to club him. And I didn't expect that to go the way it did, the way the fight went. It involves a bathtub. And I'm going to tell you, the one-liners and stuff, even though you can kind of feel, and I had heard this, but I really kind of saw it here at times, you can tell in this movie that Sean Connery doesn't always want to be there. And I think he did like 5 official or 6 official Bond films, and then did like one spin-off like remake of Thunderball. I think it's called like Never Say Never Again or some wacky title like that. All the goofy type of James Bond titles. But if Thunderball is anything like this movie, I'm going to have a great time. I can't wait. I can't wait. You have some other characters I've heard of before, like Pussy Galore is in here. Crazy name. And I don't think she was in the Craig era. I've only seen most of those films like one time, especially the last 2, Spectre and No Time to Die. So I don't remember Pussy Galore, and I don't think she was in the Brosnan films when I watched those recently. But I gotta tell you, man, everything from the directing to the action, the fight scenes, the humor, even down to the bad guys here, I really, really enjoyed this. Like, there was movies I'm looking forward to. Like, I found out from the Geekvolution videos. I never knew this. You guys may not know. I'm a huge Christopher Lee fan. I'm a diehard Christopher Lee fan. And not just from, like, his Dracula day. I'm not even a big fan of his Dracula films. I've only seen the first one of those. But he did the movie with The Man with the Golden Gun, apparently, I think is what it's called. I love Christopher Lee. I'm literally going to watch that film just because. I don't care if it's Roger Moore. I've never seen a Roger Moore film. I've heard many a time that he's like one of the least favorite James Bond actors ever. Maybe the worst. You know, there's also Lazenby. I've heard people say that about. But I am so excited to get to the Christopher Lee Man with the Golden Gun movie. You have no idea. But let me talk about the bad guys here a little bit. I talked about Goldfinger. He's kind of the guy this story is about, even named after. He's okay as a bad guy. His plan is more interesting than he is, to be honest with you. Pussy Galore is kind of a bad guy, too, more of like a female henchman thing. She's beautiful. She's a beautiful woman. She's like, to me, one of the quintessential Bond babes, to be honest with you. But there's also this one guy that's like the driver, main tough henchman of Goldfinger, and he's like he looks like a strongman. You know how like the strongmen that actually go into competitions, like they can lift hundreds of pounds and stuff, but like they look like they would be fat, but they're also strong, kind of like Michael Clark Duncan in Daredevil, you know, but he doesn't look fat. I mean, like a dude like that, but when they're way bigger. This guy looks like that, but he's like an Asian dude, and he wears like, I don't think it was a tuxedo, but it was like a dress-uppy type of thing, almost like you took a strong, ridiculously strong henchman and put him in a getup to look like a limo driver. And he's like undercover that way as this, you know, henchman disguised as a driver, and he wears a top hat, right? And Goldfinger tells him at one point, he like nods towards a statue to make an example to James Bond of what will happen to him if he doesn't drop the investigation towards himself, because he realizes from the get-go after a golf game what Bond is doing, who Bond probably is. This guy takes off his top hat, throws it across the yard, and decapitates one of the statues with his hat, implying that the actual brim of the top hat that he's wearing, his Abe Lincoln cap, has some kind of razor built into it or is super sharp. And like it'll get stuck into metal and walls and stuff if he throws it later on in the movie. It is so wacky and over the top. And let me talk about the Aston Martin here. That's the one that is one of the big callbacks Skyfall apparently has, which I remember the car. I just had never seen Goldfinger before. Skyfall, they bring back the Aston Martin from this. And this Aston Martin, I love it. It is like, I know it's supposedly like the quintessential Bond car. That's why Skyfall apparently called back to this. I don't know how often this car is going to pop up in the future movies. I don't think I saw it in the Brosnan films, but I could be wrong. I've only seen those once now, a few months back. But I got to tell you, I love that car. It is so great. But again, set up for action set pieces, different characters that may be an assassin you don't know about. I don't know if from like this point on, the Bond films just continuously have good movies. I don't know. But this was so good. I want to tell you this. This was so refreshingly good. Like when I watched GoldenEye recently. And Spectre too, for my personal taste. that it made me want to go back and finish Dr. No, watch or rewatch whatever happened there from Russia with Love, and kind of work my way through the franchise. But I just feel like it's not going to work out that way for me. I just feel like I can't bring myself to do that. That's a lot of films. Some people explain to me, though, there's only like 26 movies or something. So maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. I don't know. Maybe I'll just hit random ones over the years. I don't know. I feel like that's unfair to you all, but it's also almost summertime, so I'm not going to have enough time to be able to do that between housework and yard work and obviously spending time with my wife, watching the usual summertime movies I watch like Wild Hogs, or I just watched Employee of the Month for the millionth time. I'm going to be busy, so I don't know if I can do that this year, but gotta tell you, dude, Goldfinger is a staple in the franchise for a reason. This was excellent. This was such a great flick. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. But the things I complained about in my James Bond video I mentioned, that kind of spiraled me into talking about this, the things I complained about, gotta tell you, they were not here. This movie, I could see people complaining and saying that it's a slower pace. This was not slow the way Dr. No is. Dr. No was boring as hell. This had the perfect pacing for a 60s film. I don't even like most movies from the 60s that I see. I've watched everything from horror to thriller. I'm just not into it most of the time. TV shows I typically like, but a lot of the movies at that time, not really, man. This was so perfect, and it had such a good mesh of the action with the talking and making things interesting. Really good flick. And Connery, again, he has his moments where he's kind of bored and you can kind of feel it and see it. It's kind of like giving flashbacks to when I watched the Joss Whedon version of Justice League and how Ben Affleck was like, fuck this. You know, it gave me flashbacks of that, but with Connery here. But he was still good. He was still fantastic here. I liked him way more here than I did in Dr. No. And like I said, I just tried to rewatch Dr. No, so I was bored to tears with that movie. I couldn't take it. I had to stop. I couldn't take it anymore. But this is surprisingly really, really good. If you haven't seen Goldfinger, you should give this a shot. This is a really solid flick. I recommend it highly if you haven't seen it before. Anyway, what do you think about Goldfinger? You Bond fans out there, you non-Bond fans out there, I'd love to hear what you all have to say about it. Thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all. Catch you later, and goodbye.